The village feared her shadow because it was never there. In a quiet village along the bank of the sacred Oda River in western Ghana, a girl was born into a silence no one knew how to break. Her name was Amara. And from her very first morning, something was wrong. Not the wrong of sickness. Not the wrong of weakness. The wrong of absence. Amara cast no shadow. The midwife who delivered her noticed before the sun had fully risen. Every object in the room threw its dark twin against the floor. Every object except the child lying on the mat. The midwife set down her cloth, walked to the door, and called for the village priest. Okomfo Dakwa stood over the infant for a long time. Then he turned to the mother and said, "This child carries something we cannot see." Which means something we cannot see is carrying her. He issued 3 rules before he left. The child must never be shown to the river at noon. She must never stand in direct sunlight without covering. And she must never see her own reflection in still water. The father asked why. The priest answered, "Because the thing her shadow is holding back will look back at us instead." Amara grew up the way children grow up who understand from birth that they are different. Mothers warn their children. No one explained why. She played alone beneath the tall Asia trees, where shadows were expected to be thin, where her absence could almost pass for ordinary. By 10, everyone had stopped pretending. By 16, the elders were meeting in quiet rooms. Because something was changing. The shadows inside the family home had begun to lean gently toward Amara when she passed. Not dramatically. Like a slow, deliberate recognition. Her mother, Akojua, watched all of it and said nothing. She oiled her daughter's hair and held the secret she had been carrying since before Amara was born. By 18, the changes could no longer be ignored. When Amara felt fear, rooms dimmed. When she laughed, shadows softened. When she was angry, every shadow in the house went absolutely still. The stillness of something waiting. Then her cousin Yo, reckless as always, took a piece of charcoal and tried to draw a shadow beside her feet. As a joke. To fill in what was missing. The moment the charcoal touched the ground, the temperature dropped. The washing line snapped. The charcoal split cleanly in his hand. Yo ran and did not look back. That evening, Okomfo Dakwa gathered the village and said the thing no one had wanted to hear. The boundary is thinning. What was sealed at the river 18 years ago is beginning to weaken. The girl must understand what she carries before she discovers it herself. Amara's mother fainted. Her father caught her. Amara stood at the edge of the crowd and felt something move through the empty space beside her. Not through her body. Through the absence. That night she sat with her mother and said, quietly, "Tell me." And Akojua told her everything. Before Amara was born, she had lost 3 children in silence. Grief had broken her in a way that only breaks once. She had heard whispers of a place along the Oda River where offerings were heard. She went alone. At midnight, which was forbidden. She pressed her palms into the water and asked for a child. A voice from beneath the surface answered. Ancient and enormous, the way a mountain is enormous. It offered her a child. The child would carry the prize in the place where her shadow should be. As long as she carried it, what lived beneath the water would not rise. What Akojua had not known was that breaking the sacred surface at midnight had done more than create a bargain. It had cracked something. Something that had been sealed in that water long before the village had a name. Something far older than the spirit she had spoken to had felt the crack and waited. The night the storm came, it began at the river. A sound rose from the water that was not wind, not current, not frogs. Low and enormous, like the earth shifting its weight. Within an hour, lightning struck without thunder. Wind moved the wrong direction. Rain fell sideways. Amara stood dressed and awake as if she had been expecting it. And then a voice inside her, for the first time, spoke in words. Come to the river. Come and see what you have been holding. She walked out into the storm. Her parents could not stop her. The village was awake, watching from doorways, and no one stepped forward because something in the air made stopping her feel like standing in front of a river with your hands out. She reached the bank. The churning water went perfectly still in a circle directly before her feet. And in that circle, every person behind her saw their own reflection. But in the water before Amara, there was nothing. Only sky. Only light. As if she were not standing there at all. Then a second voice rose from below the stillness. Older than the first. Colder. Vast. I am what was here before the river had a name. I am what your mother cracked open the night she broke the surface. Amara's hands shook. Behind her, Okomfo shouted not to answer. But the voice continued, you have not been walking without a shadow. You have been walking as my seal. Every step of your life has been holding me beneath this water. And now the seal is thinning. And I am hungry. Amara stepped back one step. Then two. The mirror surface of the river cracked back into current. The crowd exhaled. But the voice was not finished. You will come, it said. When the seal breaks, you will understand that you were never meant to carry it. You were meant to become it. The morning after the storm, the stretch of water where Amara had stood was still flat. Mirror still, while every other meter of the Oda churned as it always did. And it was growing. Okomfo said it plainly, the boundary is her. Without her between us and what is beneath, it reaches through. And she is approaching her limit. Amara, because she was not entirely Amara anymore, asked how long. Days. Perhaps less. Then came the moment that settled the village's fear into something beyond argument. Her cousin Yo went to the river alone. He looked into the dark circle. The forgotten one, sensing a living person at the edge without the boundary present, looked back. Yo collapsed 10 meters from the water. Conscious but unreachable. Eyes fixed on something no one else could see. Amara walked through the crowd. She knelt beside him. She said, firmly and quietly, in a voice that was already not quite only hers, come back. Yo blinked. His eyes focused. He wept with a relief so enormous the watching crowd had to look away. The village went silent. That night, the two voices came to Amara together. And they told her what neither had admitted before. They were not enemies. They had not always been separate. Before the sealing, they were one thing, the river and its depth. Surface and what lives beneath. The ancestors who sealed them had been afraid of what they did not understand. The bargain Akojo had made was not a mistake. It was the beginning of a restoration. There is a third path, the voices said. Not the seal. Not the sacrifice. The bridge. If you step willingly into the water and carry both of us across, we can become what we were always meant to be. But you will not be only human after. Amara looked at her parents. Her mother placed both hands against her face. I understand, Akojo whispered. I understood from the night I went to the river. They came to the bank of the Oda River in the hour before midnight. The whole village. Frightened and sleepless, holding lanterns, holding each other. Amara walked through them without looking sideways. The flat dark circle covered nearly the entire visible stretch of the river now. In it, no stars reflected. No moon. Only depth, and something vast waiting patiently on the other side of the surface. Yo's voice came from somewhere in the crowd. I am sorry, he said. For the charcoal. For all of it. Amara looked forward. It was not your fault. Some things are larger than fault. She closed her eyes. And she stepped into the water. The cold hit her instantly. The cold of depth, not of water. Something moved through her below the range of hearing, and she sank, not because the river pulled her, but because she chose to go. For a long, terrible, silent moment, there was nothing. And then the entire surface of the Oda River lit up. Not fire. Not lightning. The particular light of dawn arriving all at once. The flat dark circle shattered from below, and the pieces of that darkness scattered and dissolved into the current. The river roared, not with violence, with something that sounded like relief. Like something enormous exhaling for the first time in longer than anyone alive could count. The water stilled. And Omar walked out of it. Not Amara. Not Amira. Omar. She walked up the bank and stood in the lantern light, and for the first time in her life, she cast a shadow. Not one shadow. Every shadow. The shadows of the trees, the lanterns, the people, the river itself, all leaned gently toward her. Like something in the world had been reordered. Like a missing piece had come home. Okomfo Dakwa walked to the edge of the bank. "Who are you?" he asked. Omar looked at him. Her voice was hers, but behind it was the sound of water. "I am the bridge," she said. Above the Oda River, the moon cast a perfect reflection in the water for the first time in 18 years. She was feared as a shadow with no child. But she became the bridge the river had needed all along. Not all absences are emptiness. Some are the shape of something so enormous it cannot be seen, only felt in the space it leaves behind. What looks like a burden may be the responsibility the world gave you before you were old enough to understand it. And sometimes, the greatest courage is not in fighting what you carry. It is in stepping into the water and trusting that you are strong enough to bring both sides home. If this story moved you, like and subscribe for more powerful African tales. And tell me in the comments, if you were Amma, would you step into the water, or would you choose a different path?